So, zip it, zip it. Thank you. Now, good Lord. Oh, gosh. Not my job. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Do you want a copy of this? Yes, ma'am. Do you want one? I'm good. Okay, thank you. You don't know about like our finance? I don't think so. You know how much I don't want? I don't understand that. That I don't want, that you don't want to know. The less I know, guys, the more helpful I can be. Okay, there you go. Do we have a script or we just have an agenda? I'm okay with just the agenda. I just want to make sure I'm not ignoring a script somewhere. Okay, make sure I'm not ignoring something somebody typed up. It'd be about the same. Oh, the second one's the most important one. Yeah, let's go. Now 6:45 on Monday, January 10th, 2022. My name is Amber Orozco. I'm currently the corporation attorney, and I will act as the temporary chairman of this board of finance meeting for the Franklin County Community School Corporation. We'll start with a roll call. Francis Brumbach?
Yes.
Harry Bryant?
Here.
Rick Gill? Beth Foster?
Yes.
Katie Holman?
Yes.
Grant Reeves?
Here.
Sharon Wozlowski?
Here.
And with that, the first thing we're going to do is elect officers for this Board of Finance meeting. Do I have a motion to elect a president of the Board of Finance?
I nominate Sharon Wozlowski.
Francis Brumbach nominates Sharon Wozlowski, and
I'll second that.
Beth Foster seconds the nomination. Any discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Francis Brumbach?
Yes.
Terry Bryant?
Yes.
Rick Gill? Beth Foster?
Yes.
Katie Holman?
Yes.
Grant Reeves?
Yes.
Sharon Wozlowski?
Yes.
Having a president, I will turn over the rest of the election of officers to the president of the Board of Finance, Sharon Wozlowski.
We need a secretary for the Board of Finance. Do we have a nomination for somebody?
I'll nominate
Katie.
Kate. Katie? Like you do? Is that okay?
Do you accept, Katie? Well, is there a second for Ms. Holman?
I second.
All right. And Ms. Holman, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
I just want to make sure. Okay. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Brumbach?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill? Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Next up, we have the investment report.
I will go over, I handed out a handout for our bank comparison and investment report. These numbers go over the end of the 2021 calendar year and also the previous year of 2020 and on some instances the 2019. Our current year-to-date checking account interest paid for our FCN banking account we have collected a total of $5,741.69. We have since added this year our reimbursed bond that we issued in October, and this, since October, has earned $2,658.67. Our First Financial checking account has earned $5,042. And our First Financial bond issue that was done in 2020 for the construction bond has earned a total of $30.01. The year-end balances for December of 2021, our FCN checking account ended at $2,994,048.48. Our FCN self-insurance checking account ended in $121,371.86. Our FCN reimbursed bond has ended in $4,793,968.27. Our First Financial checking account ended in $2,861,198.11. Our First Financial 2020 bond issue proceeds ended in $100,037.17. And we have a First Financial Flex checking account that ended in $5,053.29. Now, also, if you recall, in 2021, we did make the decision collectively to take out our CD that we had at Back State Bank. And for the time period that it was in a CD, it had earned $5,201.43. Our deposits that go into the FCN Bank are our basic grants, our cafeteria reimbursement from the state, our grant reimbursements, our full day kindergarten and summer school reimbursements. We pay from that same FCN account our payroll, health insurance, Indiana Department of Revenue, and IRS. Our deposits to First Financial are all transportation expense reimbursements. Deposits. We deposit cafeteria money, as well as county taxes and all other revenue and reimbursements. We pay from First Financial Bank our accounts payable, our Ohio Department of Revenue, bus contractors, and employee voluntary deductions. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
The 4.8 million at FCN Bank, that was from the bond.
Yes.
Are we going to put that in a CD or something? Because the idea is that we're holding that and not in case we need it, but
Yeah.
we have flexibility now to put it back in a CD.
That has not been anything that we've discussed or looked into, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I do know one of the things that we want to look at is making sure the majority of it is liquid for things that we want to expense from it, but that can be a conversation that comes.
Okay.
I'll put it on my conversation with Chad.
Okay. That'd be great.
Interest rates coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talk to them,
Yeah.
you know all that.
We were very lucky, FCN decided to match the same interest that we have on our regular checking account with that. So they gave us a 0.25%, which is really great. I know CDs have earned more in, the past, but that's something that we need to look at as well, or what can we get from a CD versus that 0.25.
Right. Okay. Any other questions?
Excuse me, the FAFSA CD, is that accounted for? I don't know, you gotta move it where is that now?
Yeah, so that got moved into our FCN account this year. That was our $1 million CD that we have carried for multiple years, and that was the one that we decided to liquidate, I believe, in March.
It's pretty early on, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on.
So that FCN checking account, it is up a little bit, but a chunk of that's because of that $1 million, really.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? School Corporation Fiscal Indicators Annual Report.
So this has some disclosures in the packet. Also, please note that this is all for the 2020, year end. The 2021 has not been released, obviously, because we are 10 days past. So that will come later. So our average daily ADM, in the 2020-2021, it was, the fall student count was 2,033 students. On page 2, we do not have an operating referendum revenue, so it shows a 0%. On page 3, our annual deficit / surplus, this shows the past years of revenue, expenditures, and deficit surplus. Now, this is for all of the funds combined. So I will say that in the operations fund in 2020, we spent a deficit of 1.5 million throughout the year. And in the education fund in 2020, we had a surplus of 483,000. So it kind of all balances out, but you can see in here that we were very close into averaging all of our funds about even across the board in 2020. The fund balances as a percent of operations expenditures, again, this is all of our funds, and you can see over the past 7 years that has decreased. On page 4, our revenue type, our main 2 revenue that we receive are the state revenue and local tax revenue. And then on the last page, it goes back to the ADM count. In 2020, the fall, we had a count of 2,033, and in the spring of 2021, we had a count of 2008. However, in the fall, we did have a count of 2,057, I believe. And then the fund balances at the end, at the bottom of the page, you can see they have again decreased over time over the past 7 years. And that is a combination of all of our fund balances.
And this is for discussion. Any questions for Kendra?
Yes, Kendra, can you give me the number for each student that you took that time, or enrollment? What does each student get?
It varies depending on what they are enrolled in, and what, like if we have a special education, and I don't have those numbers in front of me, I can get those for you, so.
Do you know?
I mean, we would have just a basic grant amount, and then it would be multiplied, so.
Okay, do you know what that?
Not off the top of my head now. For what year? This year?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's over 7,000, I know.
Yeah.
I just can't remember the change.
I do also want to add some good news. We did end our books for the 2021 calendar year. For the education fund, from January to June, we had expended roughly around 7.9, and in July through December, we had expended around 6.7. So that was a cost saving measure that we were able to find of about 1.1. However, I believe a lot of that is from the ESSER grant that we received and being able to move a lot of the, salaries over to that. So we were able to use that money very efficiently to kind of build ourselves a little bit of a cushion in the education fund in the latter part of 2021. In operations, January through June, we expended about roughly 3.6 million. In July through December, we expended 3.3, and that is purely from cost saving measures that we had done, and we had talked about collectively as a team. So we were able to save about 300,000.
Over a 6-month time frame.
Yes.
In the operations, yes. And we probably used ESSER money to offset some of those, operations costs as well.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, that will adjourn our Board of Finance meeting. Thank you.
We were ready. Okay, Amber?
Now 7 o'clock on January 10th, 2022. I'm Amber Roseville, the current corporation attorney. And as such, I'd wish to call to order the Franklin County Community School Corporation regular school board meeting. I'd like to have a roll call first so that everybody can know who's here. When I state your name, please state present. Francis Brumbach.
Present.
Terry Bryant.
Present.
Rick Gill.
Here.
Beth Foster. Here. Katie Holman. Here. Grant Reed.
Here.
Sharon Wozlowski.
Here.
Very good. The first order of business is to elect a president. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Rick Gill as president, Sharon Wozlowski as vice president, and Beth Foster as secretary.
We can go through these all at once. Are there any seconds to Francis's proposed,
Second.
is there any discussion on the proposed board?
Feels very efficient.
I like it. I like the efficiency here. If we're all in agreement, let's do a voice vote. If there are any nays, then we'll come back and do a roll call. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, aye.
Any opposed? We now have a new officers of President Rick, Vice President Sharon Wozlowski, and Secretary Beth. Thanks, Beth Foster. Sorry, I looked that way when he said secretary, and I didn't know where I went. Mr. Gill or Sharon, would you like to take over? Mr. Gill and Sharon, President, would you defer to her?
Yeah, I'll refer to her as the vice president taking over for the meeting.
Wonderful. Vice President Wozlowski, take it over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While we're ramping up, I'll apologize to everybody, I'm not being lazy, I broke a bone in my knee, so that's why.
Do legislative liaison.
Some people would think I'm just chilling out.
Yes.
We do need to elect a legislative liaison. Do we have a nomination? Can I nominate? Grant? Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We'll do a roll call for Mr. Reeves as the legislative liaison. Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves? And I am a yes. All right. I don't know if you want to stick around, but I don't know if
You're good.
you're good to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amber.
All right, first we will set a time, date, and place of the regular school board meeting. Right now, our school board meetings are at 7 o'clock here at the administration building on the second Mondays of the month.
I move that we, keep the same time, date, and location.
Do we have a second? Mrs. Holman? Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yep.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The appointment of corporation treasurer, deputy treasurer, and extracurricular treasurer.
Yes, this is just a formality that we have to go through every year. I, as superintendent, am recommending Mrs. Kendra Franks continue as a corporation business manager.
Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
She's already gone. Appointment of our corporation attorney.
Yes, confident.
You're right. I'm recommending, that we continue to use, the services of Mrs. Amber McMillan Orozco as our corporation attorney.
Any discussion? Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Reeves and Mr. Gill? Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Conflict of interest?
I believe we can skip E because we do not have any, and Kendra verifies that for us, so.
All right. We already did the call to order.
She did.
We don't have to do it again, right?
No.
All right, so at this time, I'm going to ask everyone if they would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, the approval of minutes for the Monday, December 13th, 2021 executive session and regular board meeting. Is there any discussion? Motion? So
Yes.
moved. Mrs. Foster and Mr. Bryant, with a second. Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The approval of expenditures and financial report.
The prepaid claims 10029 through 10055, totaling $166,115.09. Our current claims 10056 through 10116, totaling $214,554.37. Our direct deposit for bus contractors totaled $233,666.95, for a grand total of $614,336.41.
Any discussion? Motion?
So,
Second? Mrs. Foster?
I'll second.
Mr. Bryant? I'm sorry, Mr. Brumback,
Yes.
Mr. Bryant,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mrs. Foster,
Yes.
Mrs. Holman,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
The corporation financial report, the education fund balance as of December 31st, 2021 was $1,938,702.90. A year ago, this balance was $1,830,854.11. The operations fund balance as of December 31st, 2021 was $241,349.86. A year ago, this balance was $574,068.17. The investment interest earned year to date as of December 31st, 2021 was $16,985.68. This is compared to $37,052.59 a year ago.
Any discussion? Cafeteria report?
The cafeteria fund balance as of December 31st, 2021 was $428,222.78. This is compared to $98,362.70 a year ago.
And discussion? Do we want to talk about that, even though we don't have a lot to talk about?
I know. We finally did get our indirect cost rate. I have a call in with Chad, Thursday. So I'm gonna ask him how that is applied to cafeteria, because you have to take out equipment and one other thing,
And
out of that.
see if we can go backwards, right?
Yes.
Also, Mrs. Lauren wanted me to make you all aware that between the reimbursement amount and her expenditure amount, she actually only saved a difference of about $7,000 this month. So she is spending as much as she can and helping out the cafeteria staff on whatever needs they may have. And so she wanted me to let you guys know that.
All right, latchkey report?
The latchkey fund balance as of December 31st, 2021 was $2,996.33. This is compared to $3,697.93 a year ago.
Any discussion for latchkey? Is that still at all three schools?
It is
Okay.
How are the numbers looking for latchkey as far as attendance and other things are a little more leveled off with COVID?
I think as far as I know with the secretaries, they have had a steady number. This particular month, we did have one secretary out, due to an illness. So her check to me was a little bit later and is not recorded within the December month. So it does look a little, this month will be reflected on the January.
Any other questions about latchkey? 2021 budget transfers?
Ms. Tammy Chavis and I are recommending that we transfer the appropriation amount in the education fund of $2,012,313.04, and in the operations fund, $436,432.47 to eliminate appropriations with negative balances.
And this is discussion and board action. So this has already been done.
Correct. So what this does is at the beginning of the year, when we set up our budget, we set up a rough estimate of what we believe we will spend in certain funds and expenditure lines. What this does is this allows us in our ledger system to balance everything out from where we maybe haven't spent as much in certain areas and have in others, and it allows us to balance our expenditures a little bit to what we thought we would expend to what we actually did.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to accept?
Move to accept.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant? Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Permission to accept grants and donations?
Nope.
Nope, we have none. Permission to apply for the 2022 Franklin County Community Foundation Small Project Grant?
We just need to show in our, board minutes that the board did approve. We do have a few teachers that are applying for this, so we need to reflect that in the minutes.
That we are allowing them
Correct.
to make that application?
Yes, the foundation requires that.
Any other discussion? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr.
I'll
Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman? Permission to allow them to accept grants. Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Celebration?
Captain's sitting back here thinking,
About time, right? Come on up, Captain.
I'm not sure if all of you are aware, but, Catherine was chosen as a Lily's winner this, about a month ago?
Yeah.
A month ago, right? And she is the daughter of Don and Karen. Are those your parents, anyway? Yeah. So the Lily Endowment, provides full tuition, so you get tuition, fees, and $900 towards your books. Do you know where you're going?
Not yet. I want to tour a couple places before I,
What are you down to?
right now it's down to Butler, Franklin, and, UN.
Do you have a major yet?
I want to major in physical therapy, and, that goes into grad school for 3 years, so.
So, since 1998, Lily has been giving out these scholarships, and they have given a total in excess of $439 million. So more than 500,000 Indiana students have received this award. So it is a very prestigious award, and I wanted to formally recognize her in front of the board with her parents. So congratulations, and here is the certificate from the board to you.
I was in the first class of Lilly Scholars, which I was not going to say how long ago.
I already did. 1989.
Congratulations. Not 1989, we spoke two numbers. 98, I'm not quite that.
Right, okay. I was wondering if you'd catch that. We have our second celebration. Mr. Riley is here. Coming up here in a few weeks is the annual parent night at the high school. So I'd like to just have him go briefly over that.
27th, we're gonna have a 2-hour event for parents to come in and guardians to have the ability to go through a range of sessions, to get to know what's going on inside our building. We're making it a big initiative to talk about our early college program. Myself and Mr. Grazi and Ms. Shaver are gonna be talking about that quite a bit, to educate the public and the kids that are not in the program, that can get in the program, how it's working and how we're doing it. There's 20-minute sessions, we run 5 sessions, we can kind of rotate around. There's athletic, canvas, dual credit we're offering there, Ivy Tech will be there, graduation date, JAG, a food pantry, power school, testing prep info, transitioning to FCCSC, our career center, and they'll be getting tours of our new band facility. We're excited to get everyone back into the building, hoping for a big crowd, so hopefully we'll see a lot of people there on the 27th.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Riley?
What
Thank-
grades are this for?
9 to 12.
9 through 12? So it's not for 8th graders coming in
No,
next
we'll
year?
have, we'll have that at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
This is a one-stop shop. They can get all their information if they ever thought
But
about.
you're really encouraging the seniors to come as well, not just the
Yeah.
freshmen, right? This
We're
is,
gonna have a lot of
there's gonna be
information
stuff for
on
everybody.
graduation. Yeah, it's not specific to one grade level. Everyone will get benefits from this time.
Nice packet. Should
Ms.
answer
Lang,
most-
Ms. Lang and Ms. Shaver did a great job with that. Credit where credit's due.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to statements from the public, but if anyone would like to make a clean exit, now would be the time to do it. You don't have to stay
don't have
for
to
the
stay.
rest of the meeting if you don't want to. All right, statements from the public, and I don't believe we have any. Statements from employees, there are none. So superintendent report.
I have two recommendations that I will make together. So, as you know, we have had, hopefully after tonight, two principal openings, one at Mount Carmel because of the second retirement of Mrs. Stevens and the resignation of Mrs. Montesol. So I posted that before Christmas break. I vetted the applications, and we interviewed, meaning we had two different committees based on the building. We had teachers, we had a board member in each building, and myself, and we interviewed on separate nights for those positions. And we walked away with a recommendation for the board to approve Shannon New. As you know, she's been serving as the interim principal. I'm recommending her as the building principal at Laurel, which her contract would actually start tomorrow, January 11th, and run through June 30th of 2023 with a base salary of $75,000. And Beth Lake, who is here tonight, and your husband.
Yes.
That's your husband? Yes. You think so? Okay. She won't start till July 1 of 2022 and running through June 30th of 2024 with a base salary of $73,000. So I would like to make both of those recommendations for approval tonight.
Do we have any discussion?
Thank
So-
you, this is for Tammy, thank you for all your work on finding good candidates for this and winnowing that down and leading the interview process. I'm fortunate to participate in one of these, and I thought it was productive.
So will you then be having Mrs. Lake doing double duty of training and still doing challenge?
She's kind of been doing double duty out of necessity here in the last few days. We've talked about some things that we can do to free her up a little bit, to shadow Mrs. Stevens a little bit more than she already is. But she's been doing that for quite some time. So,
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Motion?
I move to
Foster?
accept both candidates. I second.
Second from Mr. Bromback. Mr. Bromback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster? Yes. Mrs. Holman? Yes. Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, congratulations. Old business?
No.
New business?
So I have a recommendation for our property liability workers' comp insurance. So we had a review last Wednesday or Thursday of last week. Members of the insurance committee, which are Mr. Bryant, Mr. Reeves, and I sat down with Monster Insurance and walked away with the recommendation that we would propose going with EMC, which is the Employers Mutual Casualty Company, for property liability, and IPEP, Indiana Public Employers paying for our workers' comp. Mr. Moster did reach out to 6 carriers. 3 did return quotes. One quote was $5,000 more than what you'll see here, and the second one was $18,000 more than what you'll see here. Part of this process, as I spoke with Mr. Moster, I asked him about going from a $5,000 to a $10,000 deductible. Did that make a difference in our premium? It only saved us $2,000. So to me and our committee, that didn't justify taking on that cost if something would happen. And the flood insurance and the flood coverage only saved $2,000 if we took that out. And to me, that risk is way too high just to take off the $2,000. So that was not taken off. So we'd be at a $5,000 deductible and the flood insurance on. Cybersecurity, I did ask him to reach out to potentially raising that amount. We currently have a $50,000 ransomware policy. I do not think that's enough if something would happen, but EMC went from $50,000 all the way up to $500,000. There was nothing in between. That raised the premium $10,000. So he is working on other options. And if we did find something that I felt was acceptable to bring to the board, that current $50,000 policy would fall off and we'd adopt the new one. So right now we do have coverage, which is very minimal, but we do have some. I had Mrs. Rutherford reach out to CompuTrol, which is our system where we keep what I feel is employee information that we don't want out there, Social Security numbers, etc. So CompuTrol, our business system, which is with voice, they have a $1 million cybersecurity policy on that. So that made me feel a little bit better going into this. So that's where we currently stand. So the IPEP came under a decrease in about $4,322, and the property liability was an increase of $5,446, which is an overall increase of $1,124, which our premium would be $149,024 for this school year.
Any questions?
A few things on this. One, the increase in the property, it included the addition, so things are naturally going to go up from that. I think the administration's been working hard to get the workers' compensation down as far as incidents and making sure people are following all the procedures and everything. They've been doing a great job on that. Tammy reached out to potentially other brokers, and Mr. Moster reached out and attempted to get quoted several companies, and this one ended up being the best quote, and it's the coverage we've had that he was comfortable with, that it was good coverage. So I think a lot of work was done to make sure that we're keeping costs under control on this and reviewing all options.
I think again, it's important that if it's close, what we have, and if it's close to what we want the coverage to be, then I think it's important that we stay local, and we did, and we have, and I think they understand that too, that we needed to stay.
Any other questions or discussion? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second? Mrs. Holman?
Second.
Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. COVID policies?
So you have had these for over a week, probably. It was about a week ago. I probably emailed you. The CDC announced new isolation guidance in quarantine periods. So it has been going well. What I will say, We've added another layer of accountability for our teachers and staff, and nurses, meaning, when those kids come back, if they're coming back on day 6, they're having to wear a face covering. So that is an added, supervision piece for our staff. And we've added, they're coming back, they have to have a negative test. We were very fortunate that we got another shipment of those tests in today. We were out. So this policy is great, but we're going to run into those times where we're not going to have the supplies to appropriately enact this policy. So if we aren't testing and we don't have testing kits and they can't get somewhere, they're going to have to do the full 10 days. So we will do it when we can. It's not going to always be an automatic. If you come back at day 6 and expect a test, we may not be able to do that for you in-house.
They can still go
Yes,
somewhere else.
absolutely.
They can get in somewhere else.
So I think there's about 8 or 10 testing facilities. When they're open and the times, we have that as a handout for parents. If we cannot test, that's being handed to parents at that time they're there. We have seen an increase in our positivity rate. We did expect that. So we were back 3 days, and then today, over 4 days of being back in school, we're 40 plus positive. So we're watching it, making sure that it's not isolated in a particular area. Right now, I don't see that. It's spread out throughout the corporation. And we're watching staffing to make sure that we can safely keep our buildings open. That's another factor in this. So right now, we'll see what happens. I did reach out to Dr. Welsh to see if he could get additional testing kits, and he can't get in either because the hospitals are struggling with that as well. So I just caution parents to not expect that to happen every single time they come to the building, but we will do the best that we can.
Right, and this is discussion and board action. So we are taking board action, but just so we're clear, nothing is different than what the information that was already sent out
Correct.
to parents last week. We're just formally approving what has already been sent out because it gave Tammy the authority to make the changes as needed from the CDC guidance.
Correct.
Make sense? All right, do we have any questions for Ms. Chavis?
I would just say the next 3 to 4 weeks, I'm guessing, are going to be a mess. And I hope that the parents and the public can have some grace and work with us on this because it's going to be a challenge. I know at one point the EMS ran a test about a week ago, and they finally got their test back in. But I know the administration and the teachers and staff are doing the best that they can. I hope that people can work with us and get through this next 3 to 4 weeks.
Any other discussion? Motion?
So moved.
Tolman. Second, Mr. Brumback. Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman? Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Personnel report, Mr. Isaac.
Certified retirement. We have 2, Nancy Hawkins, librarian at Franklin County High School, and Kathy St. John, business teacher at Franklin County High School, submitted their intent to retire at the end of the 21-22 school year.
Any discussion? Motion?
Regretfully, yes.
Do we have a second?
Regretfully.
Mr. Bryant. Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman? Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Resignations. Cameron Frazier and Terry Hornberger, agricultural teachers at Franklin County Middle School, Franklin County High School, submitted their resignations effective December 21st, 2021.
Any discussion? Motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant? Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman? Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Recommendation. Dustin Riley, principal of Franklin County High School, Chris Bundy, principal of Franklin County Middle School, and I recommend Kayla Patterson as the agriculture teacher at Franklin County High School.
Any discussion? Motion?
So moved.
Mr. Brumback, motion, Ms. Foster, second. Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Okay. Classified resignations, Kylie McPherson, computer teacher and IT coordinator at BES, submitted her resignation effective January 6, 2022.
Any discussion? Motion?
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Okay. Extracurricular recommendation, Shannon New, principal at Floral Elementary, is recommending the following as listed in your packet for those clubs and sponsors.
Any discussion?
Just the one, is this, the athletic director for the remaining of this year or for next year?
This is for this year. It just, with the transition, those were missed.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves? And I'm a yes. Doesn't look like we have any field trips appointments.
I'm recommending to the board appoint Mrs. Sarah Duffy to serve on the Franklin County Redevelopment Commission. This is, an appointment that Sarah currently is serving and is willing to, serve for another year.
Any discussion?
She's very,
Yeah.
Mr. Brumback, did you have discussion or was that a motion?
Well, no, I was going to have some discussion. I think Sarah does a wonderful job and keeps us informed of everything. And sometimes it feels like she's probably beating her head against the wall, but she continues to do so. And her volunteering to do again shows her dedication to the school corporation.
All right, that sounds like a motion, Mr. Brumback.
We can make it one.
All right. Second?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Brumback?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Foster?
Yes.
Mrs. Holman? Mr. Reeves?
Abstain. Because I represent the redevelopment.
Okay, any legislative updates?
Do you want to put in the other? Do you want to talk about this policy under other first?
Yes, so last month, Mr. Reeves had suggested that we look at our comments from, our public comments. So he has drafted out some thoughts. I don't know if this is for a discussion or if you just want us to take it and review it and
I would just say
provide
for
feedback.
brief discussion tonight, I talked to a couple people, I actually talked to Sarah, she's been on both sides of this to get her input. I think there are some things we could do more efficiently with the public comment, or we could more promptly get feedback to the public. Some issues that come to the public comment could easily be addressed beforehand. I don't want to eliminate people being able to sign up at the meeting, but I think we could be doing this more efficiently in various ways. Some of these that I threw out were from my ideas. I talked to one or two other board members and then talked to Sarah, kind of tried to throw most of them in a framework. Personally, I hope we could simplify it down from that a bit. I don't like things that are that long. But I wanted to throw everything out there for discussion purposes. I think Francis realized when he was actually looking at the handbook that maybe our public discussion section had actually gotten removed from the handbook at some point, and it's not actually in there anymore, apparently.
I think when we went from paper to Google somehow, but it's there now.
Oh my goodness,
Yep.
the ether. So technically, we've been doing what had always been done, but I guess technically that's not in the handbook at the moment. So at a minimum, we need to clarify that, but then I was hoping also we could get some sort of an advanced sign up so we could more productively address some of these issues either ahead of time or at the meeting possibly. So I'd love any feedback between now and the next meeting, and I hope maybe if people were willing to consider that, potentially we could put something on more for a vote for the next meeting.
It's in on our website now what we have.
Correct.
Okay.
What we've been doing.
Do you guys now?
Okay. Yes.
Well, to go along with board policy, it's been in a very, very long time since board policy has been looked at from A to Z. So I'm working with Neola, who works with many, many school corporations in the state of Indiana. I have my first meeting with them tomorrow, Keith? Tomorrow. And we're going to start from ground zero, and we're going to dissect the entire board policy book. I just think we need to streamline some things, get rid of some things, add some things. There may be things in there that are required that aren't. I just want to take a really good hard look at that. So what will happen is we'll do a draft. It will come to the board. It will come for discussion, but it actually probably won't be approved until the following board meeting. So you'll have time to look at it, provide suggestions, revisions, and then we can come back and approve it as a board the following meeting.
You'll have Amber overlook.
Well, Neola will be a team of, that's what they do.
Okay.
Yes.
And we can make this a part of that when we do that?
Correct.
As well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the object of this is to improve the efficiency of a public comment, more so than people just showing up to the board expecting an answer when we can't convey an answer to them on the spot. And I think, we feel like we're sitting up there looking stupid because we can't reply to something that's being said because we don't know about the issue. So I think this is part of the streamline that we're looking for.
I mean, I would much rather know what the issue is and them come to Keith and I, and we can either pass that down to our administrators if it's at the building level to get that answer and get it right and get it a little more quickly than waiting once a month to get that answer. And if it could be answered by Keith and I, we will do that as well.
Yeah, and the current board policy tells school board members to deflect the problem to the teacher, then to the administrator, and then to the superintendent. And then if they're dissatisfied with the answers that they get, that's when the school board comes into play.
Yeah, it was one of the recent public comments. I counted in my head, I think there were 5 that could have been easily handled with like a quick comment from the administration right off the bat. And then some of the others, if we knew they were coming, we might have been able to have the right person here or whatever to address the situation and sitting there. And then, in the age of social media, this stuff immediately is on social media. Well, they didn't answer me at all. We're like, there's a reason for that. Let's work to see if we can do better on that.
And I think, in fact, that particular meeting, if we would have put most of them together, I think we could have done a better job at answering because they went from this to this to this. And I think we could have all gotten it all together.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Frank.
That might be something to add to this, is we don't call on them in the order they sign up, but we call on them in the order they sign up within the same topic,
Okay.
to your point.
And I put a sentence at the end, some of my other boards, I don't see that happening as much here, but some of them, it's actually useful to have like a spokesperson that does talk a little bit longer, because you get a much more coherent presentation. If it's a complex problem and you've got like 4 people trying to get it out in 3 minutes, and just, I put at the end of it that we had flexibility to adjust that if we wanted to do that in some circumstance. Because, yeah, some of the meetings we get into at the county, if you literally stuck everybody to the 3 minutes and you have 15 people getting up and breaking it up into bite-sized chunks, it's a mess. And if one person gets up and goes through most of it, I don't see that happening as much here, but I put a little catch-all at the end that we reserve the right to make some adjustments like that if we thought we needed to on the fly.
All right, and so since not everyone's here to get this paper, can you email this
Yeah,
out
I can email
to
it to
everybody so that they can all have
Take a look.
copies of it and provide feedback to
Yeah, and please,
Mr.
I'm
Reed?
not upset with any of that. Like I said, I was trying to dump information out there to start a discussion.
Yep. Okay, any other future agenda requests?
Yeah, I would like to explore the notion of putting a plaque up to honor Jenny Built up in the elementary school.
Okay.
I didn't hear what he said.
At a future agenda item? Or just a,
It's probably just a request. He wants to, explore putting a plaque up at Brookville Elementary in honor of Jenny.
any other future agenda requests?
I have one, back when we worked with Sipple, we had a list of what had been done and some other future items to address as far as financial issues. I wondered if at the next meeting, if we had kind of an update. I know we've gone through some more of those, and we're gonna have what transportation coming up this summer. Maybe one of the next big ones, we kind of maybe roll back through that list and just get an update of where we are.
So you want an update on ESSER, cost savings?
Yeah, any of those, I know we had several things we were going to look at, how we're doing on looking at those.
Okay.
Any other future agenda requests? All right, any other
Can
recommendations?
I make a statement?
Sure.
I just want to offer condolences to the John Hencher family. He was a longtime coach and teacher at Franklin County Schools, and he passed away this morning.
Oh,
Oh.
I don't think, yeah,
Didn't know.
didn't know that.
We skip legislative updates.
That's sad.
I thought I asked if there were any legislative updates,
See you guys?
and you said no.
Did I say that?
Nobody said anything. I think I assumed it was no. Do you have
Grant-
any updates
Yeah.
for legislative updates?
Briefly, I think people are aware of this, but the legislature is back in session, and there are a few things. One is, this would affect us drastically. One is to make, school boards varying degrees of partisan elections, everything from voluntary disclosure of party to mandatory disclosure of the primary system, I think, in my understanding. And then there are also a couple bills floating around that would put some pretty, strict requirements and protocols in place on curriculum. And if people would want to look over those, I think part of the partisan one may come up for a vote in the House tomorrow as far as the partisan elections, as far as one of those. So I would suggest looking over those and quickly reaching out to elected officials if you have thoughts on those.
Also, they're talking, I don't know if it's that same bill, but they're talking about, parents involved in the curriculum, which, I don't have an opposition to that, but there are standards, state standards, and I don't know how you can get state standards and everything else that's in a 6-hour day. And I understand what they're all talking about, the critical race theory, the whatever else everybody's talking about, but, and then they're making it pretty difficult on the teachers, as they want to see, school plans, daily plans. Well, if you're a teacher, you know, a weekly schedule can go out the window on Monday at 9 o'clock. I mean, you can't, you just can't do that. I just think that they're trying to run the schools. I think that they already have superintendents and school boards to do that, and I don't know, was that in the same bill?
There's about 3 bills floating through, but yeah, there's another one that deals with the curriculum committee, and that's sort of line item veto on lesson plan. So yeah, there's another curriculum bill, and then there's various proposals on the partisan thing.
Yeah, we definitely need to call or do something.
Anything else for the board meeting? All right, that is going to adjourn our meeting. Our next regular scheduled board meeting is 7 o'clock Monday, February 14th, right here. Thank you.